So what we have going on here today is a neo-spacian tier list. We're mostly ranking them on their own merits as a card, and if it was just that monster's effect, if I'd actually want to run it. Engine requirements, though, are going to be a different story. If the only reason you would ever play a card is to run it as a requirement for something else, so as the best example I can think of here is actually Neos itself falls into this category. Engine requirement, because you never play it on its own merit. It's a level 7 vanilla. But I'm going to try and avoid putting the neo-spacian monsters specifically in engine requirements, because for all of them but Aqua Dolphin, you could put them in there. But the things like the Chrysalis monsters, I'll put all of them in engine requirements, because the only reason you'd ever play them is for Cocoon Party. So we're going to start off with neo-spacian Air Hummingbird, who honestly is kind of a bad card on its own. All it does is gain life points, and the only reasons you'd ever want to play it as a card are for its level, which every neo-spacian is level 3, so that barely even counts. And the fact that it's a winged beast wind monster. That is literally the only reason you'd ever want to play it. So bad. Life point gaining effects are really bad. Air Neos. Do I want to put you in playable with minor issues, or I want to put you in great? Air Neos. I'm thinking right now we're going to go playable with minor issues. This might have went into great if Destrudo is still legal, because there's very easy combos to access it. And while there are still good things to do with it, like, you can still get it with, like, Verte Anaconda to have it start at 4,000 attack. I feel like it has minor issues in consistency, which a lot of the Neos fusion monsters would. But it's certainly more playable than the rest of them. Neo-spacian Aqua Dolphin we can put into great tier, and maybe even incredible, but in its own archetype, it kind of would either go into playable, minor issues, or great. I'll put it in great, because hands trap removal and it being a warrior is very useful for Isolde. So that's all you really need to go in about that. Aqua Neos I know is going to be weird, but I'm putting it in, it's going to be between these two. The reason I'm not putting it in bad, like a lot of people would, is because of how easily accessible it is compared to the rest of them. Because Neos plus Connector in hand equals Aqua Neos by summoning the Aqua Dolphin from deck off of Connector, discarding the Neos using the Connector effect. And while I personally don't like Neospace in a lot of lists, any list that's playing it and Connector and Dolphin should be playing Aqua Neos because it's the most easily accessible beater. Brave Neos goes to Incredible tier. Basically entirely because of its fusion requirements, being a level 4 or below effect monster, and, Neos, which engine requirement, just because of the things you can send off of it. A lot of people send Shadow Mist, I disagree. I still think sending Absolute King Backjack is the best thing you can do with it to get a control effect, but you can set up your graveyard with it too, with Neos Fusion. If you're not summoning because of Neos Fusion, it probably just goes into playable minor issues, or playable major issues. Speaking of things that are very bad, Chaos Neos, god-awful. I have to go reread the effect on this thing, but I already know it involves coin flips, and it's a gamble effect that when it leaves the field, it just sets everything, right? Let's see. Yeah, set all face-up monsters on the field. Terrible when it leaves the field effect. And then, gamble effect. I don't even care about what the gamble effect is at that point. God-awful. Cocoon Party. As much as I love memeing around with this card, it falls into playable with major issues. Because most things you would ever do with this card involve running at a decent amount of the Chrysalis monsters down here to do anything with it. And this card can be really explosive because of the fact that it can summon up to 5 monsters, but it takes a lot to set it up. What card is this? Cocoon Veil? I gotta read this because I don't. The Chrysalis cards, I'm pretty sure I can put them all in bad, but I want to give them a fair shot. Tributed Chrysalis, effect damage is 0, and then it summons the Chrysalis on it. That goes into god-awful because it involves you keeping a Chrysalis monster on the field, and it literally needs, all it does is prevent effect damage. Though at the very least, it doesn't require you to do that, so it's more than contact, which gets rid of every monster on your field. Common Soul. So it's fake hero, except you can put it on either field. So if you want to give them a glow moss, you can do that to get yourself card advantage. That goes into bad. Because honestly, it doesn't matter. I know it's a little better than Fake Hero because or no, it's in the same category as Fake Hero actually, which I don't even think that's on this tier list. But it just summons the neo-spacian, and this thing, and they can MST to send the neo-spacian back. Honestly, summoning the neo-spacians isn't the problem. Contact Gate. Am I putting this in bad or am I putting it in playable with major issues? It has a lot more issues than Cocoon Party in my opinion. Because Cocoon Party can activate with only one in Graveyard, and it also doesn't lock you into fusion monsters. No, it goes into bad. The ability to summon two neo-spacians is good and all, but the setup you require for Contact Gate is absolutely ridiculous. You need to banish two differently named neo-spacians from the graveyard. Then it summons two different names from each other at least, not different from the ones you banished, from the deck, hand, or grave. It locks you into fusions for the rest of the turn, which is not great. And the fact that it can summon one back from banished is fine. It's better than a lot of the bad neo-spacian cards, but it's still not great. Convert Contact. That goes into one of these two categories. In a heavier neo-spacian list, I would put that in playable with minor issues, because it's draw power that mills from deck. It mills from deck and gets rid of one from hand. If you're running a high neo-spacian count, you should be running this at 3. It's just good cycling. I don't need to say much else about it. Cosmo Neos. Major issues. Mostly, this actually goes between these two. I'll put it in playable with major issues, but there is a huge problem with this card. And that huge problem is, where the fuck are you getting 3 neo-spacian monsters? Where are they coming from? You could say you'll Miracle Contact for late in the game. I've never once summoned this thing in a list where I was playing it because it was always a bad option compared to something else. The fact that it needs so much, the effect on it is great, locking the opponent out for the rest of the turn. That's awesome. And with, Grand Merge, cool card. In this deck, though, it'll almost always be your last play, and, well, that's about it. And then, why does it matter if your opponent's locked out of effects? You can't do anything else. Cross-Porter... Which one of these two am I putting it in? Cross-Porter's weird. It's definitely not great unless you can get it out onto the field. And I know, it requires a neo-spacian from hand, but, why would you ever want that? It's still a neo-spacian search. I'm pretty sure... I've still not double-checked this, but I'm pretty sure Neos Fusion triggers it because the summon and the send should happen simultaneously in a fusion summon. So, Neos Fusion searching a neo-spacian is cool, which is another thing for Brave Neos here. And, well, it searches a neo-spacian when sent to grave. So, Foolish Boreal searches neo-spacians. A lot of cool stuff like that. I'd put it in playable major issues because of that. It's still a searcher, though. And that's still better than what a lot of these cards do. Dark Neos. If I'm not mistaken, your spell speed 1 effect negation, correct? Yeah, no, that's pretty bad. All it does is force negations. So, I don't know if I want to put that in bad or playable with major issues. I think it's playable major issues. If it was spell speed 2, I'd probably put it in playable minor issues for Neos having a an actual negation effect. That'd be amazing. Potentially even worth building your deck around. It'd be up there with Rainbow Neos as one of the best cards in one of the best cards in the archetype, probably. But as it is now, the fact that spell speed 1 really holds it back. Divine Neos, god awful. I don't even have to think about it. So, Divine Neos... Wait, do I not have a copy in here? Seriously? That's weird. I could have swore I had one in here. For the love of God. Okay, what I remember about this card. Divine Neos is terrible because it needs very specific materials to just use neo-spacian effects, and most of those are terrible. And this is in addition to all the ones you had to have already to get it out. You need extras in your grave. It still has the same stats as Neos, which is terrible. There's no reason to ever actually summon it. Flare Neos, god-awful. It's outclassed by Rainbow Neos in every single way. Big number, who cares? It's attack for spell and traps. So what? If you're any number you can get off this, Neos can do, or Rainbow Neos can probably do it better and more consistently. Flare Scarab, god-awful. I think everything related to this card is god-awful. Terrible. Glow Moss on its own is god-awful as well. Because, well, it gives your opponent card advantage. However, I would actually put Glow Neos in playable in one of these two categories. It's still supposed to be one removal or popping, but it hits face up back row, which can help with floodgates and stuff. So it's useful. The problem is how you summon it. Uh, is it major? It kind of gets outclassed by Grand Neos, but it's still playable in my opinion, comparatively to some of the other stuff in here. Grandimal, playable minor issues. It's non-targeting removal, which is useful. You probably wouldn't play it in a lot of lists, but on its own, it's the best neo-spacian monster besides Aqua Dolphin. Grand is probably also in this category. As much as it sucks that it targets, it's still good to have removal like that. And the monster you're using to summon it just makes it better than Glow. And the fact that it doesn't destroy, which gets around some stuff. Honest Neos in Neos, I think it's bad. Because again, most of the time, like you can search this with eCall, which I don't even recommend running in most lists, unless you're running a primarily hero-based list. I think this is more a hero card than a Neos card. Like the attack gain's cool and all, but Rainbow Neos is what you'd want. Like Rainbow Neos does the job better, and using Neos Fusion for Shadow Mist to search this just causes bricks. I don't think it's worth it. Instant Neospace, playable with major issues in my opinion. It's playable with like as old to search it with Renaud, but you'd rather just get like Living Fossil or something. But the fact that it keeps a Neos fusion alive is cool, and if that fusion dies, you get Neos. Like there's worse, just it's not worth running it. I'd still rather it over something like Contact Gate though. Magma, if I'm not mistaken, this is bad. Let me double check. It just gains 400 attack for everything on the field, and the massive removal effect is neat and all, but it's not good enough. It's god awful in my opinion. Marine Dolphin, bad. Next. Don't even have to think about it. It's Aqua Dolphin, except needs a very specific card to get it out, and you don't take burn damage if you fail. Whatever. If Marine Neos wasn't tied to Marine Dolphin, it'd probably be up here. But honestly, the way it is now, it's too difficult to get out for it to be worth it. Do I want to add a category for that? Can I add a category for that? Yeah, I think I can actually. Let's just do that. I can actually put Cosmo Neos in this spot too. Yeah, Cosmo Neos can kind of go in here too. Oh, that kind of screws up the thing. Here we go. Yeah, you kind of go in here. Does that apply to anything else? I don't think it applies to anything else so far. Yeah, Miracle Contact. I think this goes in great. I know a lot of people think that should probably be an incredible, but here's the thing. It's still only an elemental hero fusion. So I'd only ever recommend running one with Brave unless you're running a heavy list and specifically intending on turboing it out, in which case I'd say two, because it's still a very bricky card, and the fact that you need setup for it. It's definitely a good card, it's just not great. Or sorry, it's actually, yeah, that is a good description. It's a fine card. I think it's great for the deck, but it's not one of the best things it can offer. I'm gonna put Nebula in this category as well. Any combo you have to use to summon this thing is too difficult. Going second, Neos can barely fucking survive, so I don't see why you'd ever try. Like, I see why you try and get it off, because the effect is incredibly strong, but like with Cosmo Neos, I think it's better in Grand Merge decks than it is in Neos decks. It's just, it would be great if you could do something with it. Too bad you can't. Neo Space Connector goes in incredible, as much as I don't run it in a lot of my lists. The fact is, it sets up a lot of stuff. Like it does everything for the deck. It helps you in so many ways. Just getting a monster out, doing stuff like that. Well, I'm struggling to bring into words how amazing this card is. Like the fact is, this thing also technically can access Rainbow Neos itself because of Mirvert Anaconda and stuff like that. Very well worth it. It would be incredible. The only reason it's not in my stun list is because it struggles in late game, and you'd rather just be stunning them. Aside from that, and in that specific list, yeah, run it. Neo Space Pathfinder. If you're running Neo Space, it's playable. But I mean, Neo Space isn't very good either. For lists that are doing it and trying to make it work that way, sure, you'd probably be playing it. In fact, it gets it back from the grave, so you only need to run one of your god-awful field spell. But, it's kinda bad. Speaking of bad, Neo-Space. It's only in bad because it keeps monsters on the field that otherwise shouldn't even have to be relying on this field spell. But, like, realistically, it's bad. You don't want to be running it. You only run it when you have to. Actually, that puts it in here. Engine requirements. Even though it's a bit different from the rest, you only run it because you have to, not because you want to. Alius, kind of god-awful. Like, what are you going to do with it? Like, the fact that it needs to do normal summon twice, especially with Neos Fusion in the game, no reason to ever play it. Neospores. I gotta reread this. 800 attack when it destroys a monster by battle. Okay, it gives Neos a Flame Wingman effect. Not worth it. It's pretty bad. Neos Fusion, I don't even have to say anything. This is the best card in the archetype by far. Incredible. The only thing it doesn't do is it doesn't fusion summon properly so it can summon any of the other monsters, but that matters for things like Neos Knight here, who does not gain his attack off of it. Very important to note, but like that's the worst thing I could say about it, aside from it locking out the rest of your turn, which I don't really know why it does that. I'm pretty sure it would have been fine. Like, Fusion Destiny exists. Did they really need to do it that way? Who knows, but we got what we got. They probably did it that way solely so they could put it in the Duel Links. Neos Knight. What do I want to put you under? I mean, you kind of fall in the same sort of thing as Brave Neos up there, where you can just send any warrior. Is there a warrior worth sending, though, that's above level 4? I don't know. So, I mean, I can put you in playable major issues, because we don't know what... It's good if you have a warrior to send, basically. And that's about as far as it goes. Keep in mind, said warrior needs to not have anything related to special summoning, so it needs to search something that can help you out. If there's a card like that, Neos Knight can do the job. But otherwise, not a chance. Actually, that goes above, like, Instant Neospace, and probably... Dark Neos actually goes down here. Kinda bad. Neos Wiseman, god-awful. Don't even need to think about it. Card's really just bad. You're not getting a Neos and a U-Bell out. End of story. Next, god-awful. Don't need to say more about it. Shoot. Okay, hopefully we'll have the full list at the end. Next! I feel like this goes into playable minor issues, because it doesn't lock you out permanently, it just locks you out while the monsters are on the field, which, a lot better than Contact Gate. It kind of just does Contact Gate, but better in my opinion, especially since you can activate it from hand with nothing on field. I know that seems worse, because it's a trap card, but honestly, you're not going to have that situation come up very often, in my opinion. Like, if you're going to run this card, you're going to want it for turn 2 anyway. Or, save yourself, not save yourself from battle. Though, you can activate an opponent's end phase going second, summon a bunch of stuff with it. I think it's better than most people give it credit for. Rainbow Dragon, why is that even in here? I mean, that falls into engine requirements, but I don't even know why it's here. Rainbow Neos, that's probably an incredible. Probably the second best card, honestly. Keep in mind, this is in a Neos deck, so Connector isn't as great in lists that don't play the neo-spacians or something to summon. Like, it's still an incredible choice for Verte to summon. Actually, if you summon a Neos, you'd need to use like Wing Spider, but like you can just use Dolphin for that too. It helps with a hand trap. It also always baits out the Ash. Space Gift, pretty bad. I wouldn't say it's god awful. Like, it could happen. You just shouldn't run it. And we got Storm Neos. Storm Neos is impossible to summon strong effect like I think most triple fusions should be. It actually would be worth it if you could bring it out, but good luck bringing it out. Twinkle Moss, god awful. It's a next card. Enough said. Wrath of Neos, in Duel Links, I would actually put this in playable minor issues. Here, maybe playable major issues. Like, it's a decent effect. You just need to get a Neos out for it. And like with Connector next and stuff like that, in Duel Links it's a lot easier to pull it off. You're basically just turboing out a bunch of vanilla Neos anyway. So, yeah, that's all I can really say about it. Would be nice. Or it'd be nice if you could do more. It'd be nice if you can get Neos out more often to resolve it, but I mean, it's still a complete board wipe. Rainbow Neos kind of outclasses it, but could be worse. Okay, the U-Bells, I don't even see why they're in here. I'm not even going to put them into engine requirements. Dark Panther on its own. Dark Panther, it really depends. It's one of these for sure. Uh, it always... Do I want to put it in playable major issues for it basically just forcing a Dragoon out? It basically just forces a Dragoon negate. You'd run it for Nebula builds. I think major issues is fine. Like, effect copying to remove stuff, still not bad for what it is. And the last card, which Cocoon card even is this? It's not Cocoon Veil, it's Cocoon Rebirth. Tribute a face of Chrysalis while you control no... wait, sorry. Face of Chrysalis monster you control to special summon a neo-spacian written on its text from either graveyard. It's a continuous spell. It's just contact with better, honestly. Which that card's not even in here. That card just falls into god-awful as well, because it gets rid of every neo-spacian on the field. Cocoon Rebirth, probably just bad for it's probably just god-awful for requiring being Chrysalis monsters. Requiring the Chrysalis monsters that you'd only ever want for Cocoon Party. So, last thing to do is, there's some cards that aren't missing, or that are missing from this list, because the template just didn't have them. So, the ones I noticed immediately, I'm going to put Favorite Hero, as I mentioned, despite it not being a Neos card. Falls into playable minor issues, I think, at the end, because of just simply being an attack boost that gets Neo-Space out for decks that need it. And with Aqua Neos specifically, it does a really good job of getting that card out. In the worst case scenario, it'll keep a 5,000 attack Aqua Neos on the field. In the best case scenario, it's allowing Air Neos to have like 6,000 attack and attack twice. So the second one will be at its normal stats. I don't think it's that bad. Fake Hero's not on here. It goes into God Awful, because all it does is summon Neos from the hand and then put it back in the end phase. Contact Out falls into playable major issues, because there's not very many reasons you'd want to get the monsters back out. Except for, like, using Nebula Neos to get multiple draws, but that's so clunky it's barely even worth it. Shadow Mist into Honest Neos. I think Shadow Mist would probably fall into bad as well, for the same reasons as Honest Neos. It's just very bricky, and Rainbow Neos does the job better. I know there was a couple more. Reverse of Neos, if a Neos is destroyed, it just summons back a Neos from the deck and attack, and it destroys it in the end phase, which puts it into god-awful, because what's the point? If you're destroying your own Neos fusion monsters to trigger this, you already had a Neos, just do it that way the first time. You're kind of just doing yourself a disservice, and that's just not cool. Double hero attack, god-awful, because it specifically needs the Neos monster out, and if you're using it for Neos monsters to revive them, it doesn't work unless you properly fusion summon them, so it only works on Brave Neos and Neos Knight that were summoned via polymerization, or like Miracle Fusion or something like that. Bad. Don't run it. Just run Monster Reborn if you already had a slot taken. And are we done here? O-Oversoul, it kind of goes into either bad or playable major issues, because it's outclassed by Monster Reborn or World Legacy Succession. Hero Mask and Prisma, I guess, would also fall into this category of bad, because it just changes the name to Neos. Can be useful, but you'd rather try and get the Neos out itself. I think we're almost done here. Just double check, see if I'm missing anything else that isn't in the template. And if I missed something, feel free to mention it in the comments or something like that. I will bring my opinion on it if you want it. I think, yeah, that looks like the end of it. Yep, that certainly looks like the end of it to me. So, yeah, overall, this is my general opinion of the cards in the archetype. I feel like this is an accurate representation of how I feel about them. Like I said, anything else that needs to be mentioned, anything that I missed, or opinions on any card that you would want to run in the deck, put it up in the comments. And, well, that's pretty much the end of this. Thank you for anyone who sat through this mess. It's shorter than you'd expect, for sure. But I have a pretty solid opinion on these cards by now, because I've been playing them for so long, and so consistently. And so, thank you for watching. This is actually not the 100 sub special I wanted to make. This is just something I wanted to put up in the meantime as filler content, basically, while you're waiting for the actual stuff. In a way, you could put it that way, I guess, if you want to call it the first video of 2 or 3. This wasn't what I planned for, but I think it does the job. I'll see you next time.